Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, June the 10th, and welcome to our video commentary. It was 74 years ago this week that most Americans were listening to their radios and trying to find out as much information as they could about the invasion of Normandy, what we now call D-Day. You know, there were lots and lots of families who had a son or a brother or a father or an uncle or whatever in that invasion. So Americans were deeply interested in knowing what was going on. One of the ways that Americans distracted themselves during that time was either going to the movies or watching baseball games or listening to baseball games, a very popular attraction at the time. And on this day in 1944, baseball made a little history when a young man by the name of Joe Nuxall, who was only 15 at the time, made his major league debut. He became the youngest man to pitch in the major leagues at age 15. He pitched an inning and a half. He was taken out of the game and then sent back to the minors, where he spent the next 6 years developing his talents. He came back in 1952 and had a decent career with the Cincinnati Reds, winning 135 games and actually being an all-star a couple of times. After that, many of you may remember Joe Nuxall because in the 60s and 70s and 80s, he was the radio voice, or one of the radio voices, of the Cincinnati Reds. And if you grew up in Cincinnati, or if you grew up listening to the Reds, you remember his voice calling baseball games. But it must have been very exciting for the fans back then to distract themselves a little bit from all the news from the war by hearing about this amazing 15-year-old. And of course, the reason that the teams had to do things like that, bring up young players, was because most of the major leaguers were in the war. I mean, the names of the guys in the war, DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Bob Feller, I mean, it was an incredible number of players who were actually fighting in the Pacific or in Europe, depending on the situation. So we remember Joe Nuxall, who on this day, 1944, became the youngest man ever to pitch in the major leagues. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We have all of these on YouTube, we have them on Twitter, and we have them on my blog. Bye-bye, everybody.